Welcome to the Craig Kennedy Show here from Spring Hill College. Charlie Harrison alongside Coach Craig Kennedy. Coach, how's it going today?
It's great. It's great to be here with you. I'm excited to do this.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a great time. So we're just going to dive right in, Coach.
Sure.
You guys just came back from a road trip, took on Allen on 12-14, dropped that one 79-75, took on Benedict on 12-16, dropped that one 77-75. What are some of your takeaways from the road trip, and tell us a little bit about those games?
Well, I don't want to go to South Carolina again anytime soon. The last time I was in South Carolina, I was at Georgia Southern, and we played South Carolina and beat them. So I felt pretty good going in. Disappointed obviously with the outcome of both games. The Allen game, obviously losing Stephen Lyles and Tim Riley to both of them fouling out, which I don't think has happened in a very long time, made that a tough go for us.
Yeah, you mentioned that, getting those two guys fouled out. Lyles, of course, such a big scorer for you guys. What does it do offensively for y'all when you have a guy who's averaging 20 plus a game go out for several minutes?
Well, it's really tough because what Steven does is he's just got such an intensity about him, and the other guys feed off that. So when he goes out, I'm super comfortable putting in freshman Rocco Lamuno because Rocco's a really big-time scorer and he's got a high IQ. He doesn't have Steven's presence yet. I think he will by the time he's done. But losing Steven's presence really hurt us.
Yeah. Overall, what are your kind of takeaways from the trip there?
Obviously, defense is an issue. We've been scoring really well this year, shooting the free throws really well this year. The start of the year, we were shooting 84% from the free throw line, which is outstanding. Any coach in the country would say, man, I'm excited with 84%. Problem is our opponents were shooting 89% from the free throw line.
Yeah, that makes it a little bit of a problem.
That makes it tough. We can't control those things. And Walter was he was number 2 in the nation with his free throw percentage. He took a pretty hard foul at Benedict and missed a couple, and then he rebounded from them. But we've got to be better defensively than we were. It was kind of like Showtime with the Lakers, and then went in and played the Detroit Pistons.
Right, that hard physical game kind of slowed you down and everything.
Yeah. And there was the one kid from Benedict. He went 5 for 10 from the three, and he wasn't a 3-point shooter. He just had a night.
Right.
And sometimes that happens.
Yeah, and I mean that's something you've got to adjust to. Of course, you always have. It seems like one guy who's going to pop off the scorer sheet that hasn't really made an impact on it to that point in the year.
And when there are certain players that are on every scouting report. For us, Walter Peggs, Stephen Lyles, Tim Riley, and Jaden Webley are going to be every scouting report.
Right.
We need that kind of guy to step up too. That's going to make shots, and they sit there and go, "Oh, where did this guy come from?" That's what happened to us at Benedict.
Yeah, and I kind of noticed, you're held to 75 in both of those games. Prior to that, you scored 90 in 3 straight. And I mean, you mentioned the physicality. Was there anything else in there, like a different zone look maybe that you guys haven't seen as much?
No, I don't think that their defense affected us as much as, we didn't get the ball inside and play from the inside out as much as we'd like to.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to get a better post presence with our bigs down there, catching the ball and either scoring or kicking out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways to do that. So, but as a coach, when you're looking at it, say, you've got that combo, Timothy Riley and Jaden Webley. What are 2 aspects of those guys' game that when you're struggling to get that post going, you go to, okay, here's the play we're drawing up. Here's how we're going to get these guys moving.
Yeah, and we do have a couple sets that we run for them and say, listen, we got to get the ball and get it inside. The psychology of the game is the point guard's got the ball or any of what we call the Badgers, and their first thought is, I don't want to turn this over.
Right.
When their first thought should be looking past the defender to see space inside, can I get the ball to the big? But the reality is their first thought is, I don't want to turn the ball over. The bigs, they're posting up and they're getting beat up down there.
Right.
And so sometimes, they get a little frustrated, and so they step out and they need to stay in the post a little longer than they do.
That's funny. You mentioned the first thought is don't turn the ball over. It kind of reminds me of like people talking about old Brett Favre from back in the 90s, that gunslinger mentality of, I don't care where the ball is going, I'm getting it down the field to my guy. But it's a little bit different when you're a point guard.
It is. And the bigs don't understand. This point guard's got somebody in front of their face the entire time, harassing them, going after them. Whereas the bigs, typically somebody's playing behind them.
Right.
Even though it's more physical, there's this one-on-one confrontation with the guards and whoever's guarding them. So it's psychologically, it's they're two different aspects of the game.
Now, Coach, one thing you mentioned in your post-game comments following the Allen game, your guys were coming off of exam week and everything, which, of course, is already loaded. I remember being a student, like, exam week was stressful, and you mentioned there was kind of rust on the guys. How much do you think that affected your response to the physicality of Allen and Benedict?
Yeah, I think just being off, whereas Allen had played a game in between there, I think that helps. So being off for a long time, having to adjust our practice times where we're going shorter practices than I would usually like. I think those things certainly didn't help us. But we're a veteran team, and we need to rise above that.
Talk about the mental side of that a little bit, too. I know for me, like, exam weeks were always so stressful. It was easy to get caught up in, okay, whatever else I was doing was great, but, man, this is my classes, this is my future. How do you kind of balance that with the guys of like, okay, I know you're waiting on final grades or whatever, but we got to go play basketball?
We talk a lot about mental toughness. We talk about it every day. We define it as, what do I have to do right now? Do it to the best of your ability. Enjoy the process. And then you have to deliver. And so we tell our guys, when you step in the gym, I don't care about anything else. I don't care about your grades. I don't care about your home life, your love life, or anything. You get in the gym, you focus on basketball. Once we get outside the lines, then those things become relevant. But you have to learn to compartmentalize. And it's the same for a student. You can't be worrying about an exam in this class when you got an exam right in front of you now. You have to compartmentalize and learn to focus on relevant things.
How much tougher is that on the road, or do you think it's a little bit easier because you get the guys out of that environment?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I like being on the road because we're in control of their life outside of basketball more.
You feed them, you tell them when to go to bed. It's perfect. It's like being a parent at that
Correct.
point.
It really is. And so sometimes when you're at home, you don't have that. We don't have pregame shoot around often when we're at home, where we get on the road. So I like being on the road. And our guys are so good. Listen, I'm not babysitter. We don't have curfew. We talk about it as a team. What time can you think you guys need to get lights out? And we have never had an issue. In fact, the last hotel we stayed in, the lady at the front desk called me over and she said, we get a lot of teams in here, but I've never had where our housekeepers say how good your players are. And that's just a compliment to our guys and how we expect them to conduct themselves.
It's funny. I've been reading a book on the 1986 Mets, and it does a lot on how terrible they were to be with on the road. Yeah. So, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And it's really funny when you talk about 2 years ago, I went with baseball with Coach Walker down to Tampa for the regionals as the game administrator. The baseball guys never stopped talking the entire bus ride. Our guys, you're 10 minutes down the road and they're sound asleep. In fact, we put air mattresses on the bus this time because Webb and Tim, they got long bodies. So
you can't put a 6'9" guy in a chair and go, okay, now sleep like this.
Yeah, sit here for 8 hours. So we put air mattresses so they can lie in the aisles. But it's real funny psychology, the difference between the baseball guys and the basketball guys. Basketball guys, we're down 10 minutes, they're sound asleep, wake up and eat. As soon as they're back on the bus, they're sleeping again.
Hey, you got to keep the guys well rested. Now, final question on the games from this past week. Notice some turnover issues. First time y'all had been back-to-back double-digit turnovers in games since early on in the year. Right. What was the deal with that? And was it just kind of a rust thing, or was it that response to the physicality?
Some was the response to physicality. The Benedict game, we got running, and we had some really good looks that we just didn't finish. A bunch of toilet bowls, went round and round and then fell out. We probably had 3 or 4 like that. That we had good looks down the floor and it just went off our fingertips and stuff like that. So those were turnovers that didn't bother me so much because we were trying to do the right thing.
Right.
And historically this program has had high turnovers. We've been much more mature with the ball this year. And so we're looking at this saying, hey, listen, we got to put this behind us. We got 2 games. We need to focus on what we need to do coming up.
All right, Coach. Well, talking about what's coming up, we're going to be doing it in the next segment. Savannah State coming to town, Edward Waters this weekend. So we'll talk about it when we come back.
Sounds good.
You're watching The Craig Kennedy Show. We'll be right back.
This is the way down a path that leads to a place upon the hill, led by thought leaders, activists, and Jesuit princes. Among the hill is where tradition and a strong desire to do and achieve reside. Ingrained in rich tradition, filled with purpose, fueled by passion. Springhill College is for those who seek more.
Welcome back to the Craig Kennedy Show. Charlie Harrison alongside head coach of the Badgers, Craig Kennedy. Coach, we talked about what went on this past weekend in the last segment. Now it's time to look ahead. You've got Savannah State coming to the gym tomorrow, and then you're going to follow it up with Edward Waters on Saturday. What can we expect out of Savannah State first?
Well, they're a really well-coached team. And, I remember when I came in the league and I saw this guy's name in there, the coach, Horace Broadnax. And I went, listen, there can only be one Horace Broadnax. Because I remember him playing for Georgetown. I mean, he was a tremendous player. The guy's got a law degree. He's really, really intelligent. And his teams are going to play hard. They're well organized in what he does with them. So it should be a really, really good game playing against his squad.
All right, and then what can we kind of expect out of Edward Waters coming in this Saturday?
Yeah, Edward, we've been up and down with Edward Waters. We had a monster game at their place last year, and then they beat us in the playoffs. They're going to play some zone against us. Although I don't know why you'd want to play zone against Walter and Steven. But,
right.
But sometimes that throws a good shooting team off.
Yeah.
And typically what happens as a coach, like we're starting to do a little more zone now. And then somebody hit a three and you go, get out of that zone area, get back to man-to-man. Well, shoot, they're going to hit shots against your man-to-man too, But Edward Waters is disciplined in their zone.
I think that's really interesting. You mentioned they're going to hit shots one way or another. I know, like, statistically speaking, now that we've gotten into the, like, points per possession stat and everything, those three-point shooting teams are typically a little better, but the three is a lower percentage shot compared to those inside shots. So how do you weigh the cost benefit of that? And is it like a team by team decision, or is it this is our philosophy, this is how we're going to do it thing?
Yeah, my philosophy is first team to 100 wins.
That,
there's a reason
it's
lights
hard
on that
to argue
scoreboard.
with that one.
Let's light them suckers up. It's like I play this word game on my phone. I know if I hit 400 points, I'm going to win.
Right.
So it's like us. Let's get to 100 and we're going to win this game. Interesting stat I saw the other day. There was something like only 20 guys in Division I that were shooting, I think, higher than 37% from the three.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing too when you think about it, because if you're factoring in, you're missing at least 60 to 70% of those shots. I mean, that's hard to overcome.
Correct. And then you got to remember long shot, long rebound. So our philosophy: let's get down the floor. We try and score in 7 seconds. That's what we want to do. Now that could be a three with certain players, or that's a layup inside.
Right.
And we just got to get back to scoring the ball a little more like we were. And one of the ways you beat the zone is get down the floor, don't let them set up.
Right.
And we want to look to get out and run this week.
Well, that'll definitely be fun. That kind of suits your style anyway. You guys are so fast, so high paced. And, looking ahead to these two games, this is the only time this past weekend where your team has been held to less than 80. How do you, coming back to the home court, bounce back from a tough road trip and get back to your version of basketball?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. One of the things I said to our guys is because, Allen and Benedict were struggling a little bit. You get someone caged in a corner, they're going to put up a heck of a fight.
Right.
And both of them did. Credit to both Allen and Benedict and their coaches. They put up a real fight. So we've got to say, listen, we're now the hunter again.
Right.
We were the hunted. It's time to be the hunter again and go after people.
And, it's early on in the year, right? Of course, this is the start of SIAC play. You take those two conference losses. How does that kind of affect how you're maybe scoreboard watching? Is any table watching going on at this point in the year for y'all, or is it just kind of out of sight, out of mind? We just want to win.
I mean, there is. Everybody's looking, where do you fit in the standings and stuff. And I'm going, listen, we just put those two behind us now, correct a couple things. We sent out film, edit from the game, and let's get prepared to go and win these next two games at home.
Coach, you mentioned it, Savannah State, they're going to play some different defensive looks. They're going to really kind of put some pressure on you guys. Talked about the turnovers in the last segment. This is a Savannah State team. They lead the SIAC in steals. how hard is it to get your legs and get the speed back when this is a team that wants to force turnovers, wants to force mistakes?
You know, the big thing we tell our guys: meet your pass. Ball's in the air, feet are in the air. If we
Right.
go and meet our pass, then they're going to be colliding with us, and we'll get into some foul situations.
And that always helps. You mentioned the high percentage from the line in the last segment. Look into it too. 3-1 this year on the home court, 1-4 in road and neutral site games. What's the zip you're getting playing in front of the home court?
Oh, our fans have been absolutely tremendous, and the student body's been great. It's unfortunate that we're not going to have them here, but our fans and the students have just been fabulous this year. They create such a good environment.
I want to talk about that a little bit too. You mentioned, we talked a little bit about like exam time and everything, but these are the last couple of games before Christmas. Do those games take on a different meaning for you guys? Do you put more emphasis on, hey, we want to end the calendar year the right way? And how much harder is it when other students are out of school, classes are done, routine is all messed up for these guys?
Yeah, affecting the routine is it can be a problem because guys just have too much time lying around.
Right.
You know, and the one thing there's looking at the end of the year saying, hey, you're right, we want to nail down these 2 games. There's some teams that come in and go, listen, I just want to go home for Christmas.
Right.
So sometimes that, especially when you go on the road, that mentality comes into play. Like, can we just get this done with, please? So we've got to make sure that, you know, we're on, let's put a nail in the coffin type deal with these guys.
And that definitely helps. You know, you get those wins, you get some momentum headed into the end of the year. And I feel like it's got to be nice as a coach to get to kind of sit for a few days, watch that extra film, and prepare for that 2-month stretch to end the season.
Correct. It does, and it'll be nice over the break. Not that we get much of a break, but to sit there and go through some film and look at some stuff and say, okay, what do we have to do, and you know what lineups have been really most effective for us.
Now, I want to ask you as a coach, when let's say like sitting down and watching the film on Savannah State, what are the first 3 things that are going to pop into your head when you watch that team? And is that the normal things you watch for, or does it kind of change based on who you're playing?
Yeah, you know, when we send out film to our guys, we look at how do they defend in transition? Are they getting back? How do they defend dead ball situations? What are they doing on free throws, make or miss? So those are situations in each of those segments where the defense can change. And then coming out of timeouts, has the defense changed coming out of a timeout? So we want to look at how those guys are playing in those scenarios.
Coach, final question for you here on the upcoming games. Defense. You guys are running a ton on offense, and I imagine it's got to be hard to keep legs underneath you when you go back down to the other side of the floor. What do you got to do to improve the defense right now? You mentioned playing a little bit more zone. What else do you guys have going on?
You know, it's like youth basketball. Keep the man in front of you.
Right.
You know, and mostly so many kids coming out, they play zone in high school. They
Right.
probably play zone in their summer ball. A lot of them don't know how to play good man-to-man. And a lot of it's footwork. We tell our guys it's like a boxer. In fact, I showed them highlights from Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward, the trilogy, which is probably the 3 greatest fights. You know, they go 10 rounds, 3 fights in 18 months. Just absolutely a war. But I said to these guys, when a boxer stands still, they get hit.
Right.
And you got to have a boxer's footwork. So we work on that a lot, pushing off the front foot and keeping space, and then just staying square in front of them. So we just have to do a much better job keeping the ball in front of us.
All right, Coach, your final question for the show. It's completely off topic, and I know I didn't warn you about this.
That's okay. I'm an off-topic kind of guy.
Completely unbasketball related answer. What are the 3 things that were on your Christmas list this year?
3 things are on my Christmas list. Well,
If you're sending it up to Santa, what's he
Yeah.
bringing back?
I gave it to Gus the Wonder Dog.
Okay.
Gus ate my list. So, the 3 things would be a 7-footer for the class of 2025.
Okay.
That would be a sharpshooting guard for the class of 2025.
All 3 levels score.
All 3 level score. Just, peace and love with our guys and our family and friends, because that's just so important. That's the thing about our guys. We love our guys so much. They're the nicest group of guys you can ever come across, and every day it's a blessing to get to work with them.
Oh, well, that's a great answer, Coach. And what's your 3rd thing? Like, if somebody's going to buy you a present, what do you want them to go down to the Walmart and buy for you?
It's coffee.
Coffee?
Coffee's the thing. If you get me coffee, I'm always happy.
Now, are you like a plain coffee
Oh, yeah,
guy
listen,
or?
strong. I like my Tim Hortons coffee. A little,
Okay.
back to my Canadian roots, but I want dark coffee, nothing added in it, and I'm happy camper.
Now, are you the guy who makes the full pot to start the day, or are you like a Keurig person?
No, I'll make a little bit to start the day. And people say, well, how many cups do you drink a day? And I say, well, I just drink one. You know, I've had this cup since 1996, by the way.
Man.
Okay. And it's been very loyal to me, but I just have one cup a day. Now I keep filling it up. But, you know, I have a Keurig. I have a Keurig in the locker room, and I always love the seniors because the seniors, they get a little more mature. They start to drink coffee a little bit. So sometimes Chase Shellman was one of the big ones who started it. We would have coffee together. In fact, Chase is coming in this weekend. I'm so excited to see him, our first HBCU All-American. But I take my Keurig on the road too. We go on the road on these road trips. Shoo, I got my coffee and I'm good to go.
Okay, so if you had to pick one guy, like he can be a basketball guy, he can be a non-sports guy, whoever, who are you going to sit down and have coffee with if you could pick anyone in the world, living or dead?
Living or dead. I don't know that Jesus drank coffee.
I feel like he could get behind it, though. I
I
mean,
think
he may
he
want
could.
like a little milk and sugar in there, but
you know, but if I was talking about like an athlete, I would like to talk with Bill Russell.
okay. And why would you pick Bill Russell?
You know, the guy's the greatest winner in basketball. 11 championships. He was a player. He was a coach. He came at a time where these guys traveled on a bus. You played one night, you went the next. You know, he wasn't allowed to eat in restaurants. He went through all that, and he just handled himself with so much dignity and aplomb. And I'd like to talk to him, you know, from a coaching perspective, how he handled being on the court and being the coach at the same time. I just think he's the greatest winner of all time.
Now, Coach, if you were given the option to be a player manager, would you want to do it?
I kind of did when I played high school, you know, and I played in a very poor system. I coached the JV team and played on the varsity. And my brother was the varsity coach. So literally he read a book on basketball and then I got it next and read it. So there was a lot of times I kind of was the player coach out there.
Very nice. Well, Coach, thanks so much for sitting down with us for our first
Can
episode.
we give one shout out to the Holiday Gulf Coast Holiday Classic?
For sure.
Being held in the Arthur R. Outlaw Center here on the campus of Spring Hill College. Starts on December 26th. We got some great high school talent coming in, and we're really Coach Richard Robinson runs that, does a great job, and we're excited to host it here at Spring Hill College.
Now, Coach, who all do you have coming in for this one?
Boy, we've got Keith High School from Orville coming in. We've got some local teams. There will be teams from Georgia, Mississippi, Florida, Louisiana. So I don't have the full list. But he always brings in a bunch of really good teams and local teams, so it's very exciting.
That'll be awesome. And those dates one more time?
December 26th, 27th, and 28th.
Very nice. Well, appreciate it, Coach. Thanks so much for your time today.
And you know what we say? Hell yeah.
Hell
Go
yeah,
Badgers.
let's go.